Hey everyone, my name is Spectre and this is Miramay.
Hello.
We are starting a podcast today and it's going to be about all creepy, spooky, mysterious things because it's something that we both
Weird
really like.
stuff. Yes. And subsequently, the title of this podcast is going to be called Pretty Spooky.
We are recording at a distance and we are recording over Discord for that reason. And we will be posting this on YouTube, and then there will also be an audio version of this. So if you like to see our faces, then you can watch it on YouTube. And then also we'll be doing any accompanying images on Instagram and then maybe also Twitter.
Yes. If you are looking for us on either of those places, right now they can be found on @ominousglitch. So if you don't follow us there, you totally should.
Okay, I guess maybe we should start with why are we doing this?
Oh my God, I feel like it's something we've been talking about doing on and off for years, as long as we've known each other, more or less.
Yeah.
Spectre and I spend a lot of time watching and listening to spooky type stuff. I listen to a lot of scary podcasts, both true stuff or supposedly true stuff and fictionalized stories. I listen to a lot of things like that because I have long commutes to work, so I have plenty of time to take in that stuff. And then we both spend a lot of time watching stuff on YouTube, Night Minds and Nightmare Expo and Top 15s and Top 5s and Rainbot, yeah, and what is it? Scary Mysteries is one of the newer ones or something like that. I don't know, just
I know that one.
He's all right.
Yeah.
So a sidebar, I guess, but my only issue with Scary Mysteries, they've got pretty decent production value, but they've got this animation that they use at the start of all of their videos, and then whenever they're counting down from 5 to 4, and they're switching numbers, it looks like a hand crank thing, like a camera or something. And then they've got this sound that they play that I think is supposed to be like an animal growl or a roar or something, but it always sounds like a toilet flush to me.
Oh.
And I feel like it is, I don't know, every single time it sounds like someone in a room 5 rooms over just flushed a toilet, and I'm so confused.
Take a spooky dump.
Oh
no! I think that another medium that you talk about listening and watching, but we also constantly read.
Yes.
Constantly read anything to do with anything scary. And that's
definitely
novels, that's articles, that's comics, that's
a lot of comics.
my favorite content for things that scare me are just people's just Reddit questions, Reddit, what is your scariest blah? And then I read every comment, and then there are some things in there that destroy me, and I love it.
For me, the true stuff like that is one thing, and I really like stuff like that, but I feel like there's a part of me that's always trying to detect people's bullshit, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that sometimes I ruin it for myself because I'm always this sounds fucking fake, but at the same time,
it is.
At the same time, I can't get upset about that because I know that sometimes true things can sound extra super duper fake too. It's not on me to be the judge.
Sometimes I'll do the thing where I'll go into their profile and be like, how often do you post on no sleep?
Oh my God, yeah.
And if it's a lot, then their story's fake.
That's probably true. I just
if it's at all, I'm gonna say your story's fake.
If
you posted one time.
Isn't that the point of no sleep though? No sleep is fictional stuff, right? And then there's a different one if you've got true story.
It's all role playing, right? Because everybody's supposed to assume that what you post there is real.
Right. I
just assume everything there is not. But but I'm talking about just the stuff I like the most is Reddit, tell me the scariest time you ever had hiking, and then there'll be stories about people's real life experiences hiking. And
oh man,
I actually have one saved. We'll get to it.
Okay. All right. You just reminded me of something that I want to talk about on a future episode.
Okay.
So
good.
We'll get there.
Keep it in the bank.
I'm putting it in my pocket for later.
Yeah, do it.
It's a little sticky though. It's gonna get lint on it.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
You don't want it to be fresh. Because then it might.
It's gotta be a little bit. It's gotta be a little stale.
Yeah.
There's like a stray hair stuck to it, maybe.
Yeah. Well, in your case, like 50 cat hairs.
Oh god, yeah, it's all cat hairs. Jesus Christ.
So you said you wanted me to go first with my topic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you should go first.
So last night, I feel like we'll do like a switch off here because we'll do like I'll talk about I watched 2 movies yesterday. I'll talk about one that I really liked, and I don't think you've seen it yet. And then the other one we've both seen, so we can talk about that.
Okay.
Okay, so the first one I watched was actually the one I would want to talk about second. So the second one I watched is called The Eyes of My Mother. And
The Eyes of My Mother. Yes.
It was like 20. Hold on, let me look it up quickly, just so I have like the actors' names and whatever here. It's a 2016 horror film.
Okay.
It's all in black and white.
All right.
And it's mostly English, and it takes place in America, but some of it is also in Portuguese.
Okay. Is it from a Portuguese director or studio or?
I don't. It's possible. I can't say for sure whether this person is Portuguese.
Okay.
But basically, it's about this girl who initially, I don't want to spoil too much, but I'll just say, like, initially she has a really rough upbringing, and that's really putting it mildly. Something horrible happens to her, like, as soon as, like, when she's a little girl, something absolutely awful happens to her. And it shapes who she is as a person. And things don't really seem to get better. And it turns her into a very sadistic person. And it's all about, like, the description talks about how it as she grows up, her desire to connect with the world around her takes a distinctly dark form. And so it's beautifully shot, it's beautifully acted, and it's very disturbing, which is what I love. And my favorite horror film is Martyrs. I'll just put that out there now. And I like stuff that really, I want to be, like, broken when I watch a movie. And
you just want to feel something. I
want to feel destroyed. And while this didn't destroy me, it did really, I felt it. And I think that it's not super gory, but what the content is very disturbing. And the way that it's shot is very creepy, and I just liked everything about it. And honestly, it's really hard for me to say that about horror films because I am very, very picky.
That's true. She is.
I'm really picky. I'm a total jerk.
So what can you tell me without spoiling it that you, like, felt so viscerally, I guess? If that's possible, if you can answer that.
I'll, like, describe some themes, I guess.
Okay, yeah, hit me with some of that, because I want to hear more from you about it. But
there's some torture themes.
Okay.
There are some really weird childhood upbringing themes.
Okay.
There's some disconnected parenthood. There's some confusion about sexuality, which includes, like, a distinctly lesbian scene.
Okay.
It's not at all sexual.
Okay.
But it's a distinctly, like, lesbian scene. It covers, like, mental illness, really, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but really messed up development. And then just overwhelming loneliness. And to watch this person who was doing these absolutely horrible things, but still have some sort of sympathy for her and still feel like you care about her is I think really well done on the part of the creators.
Okay. So would you, because I'm personally not too bothered by stuff like this, but I guess I feel like it's fair if we're recommending this to other people. Would you like not recommend it to people who aren't into torture, or like, are there any things you'd say like if you don't like this, then don't watch it?
If you're a lightweight on horror and you don't want to specifically seek out something very disturbing, then I would not recommend this. I think this is probably on the heavier end of the spectrum.
Okay. So, I don't know. I want to like.
It's not like straight up torture porn, and I wouldn't say it's as bad as Martyrs.
Okay.
But it's definitely not your average horror movie. It's not your typical, like, I wouldn't really expect them to show this in theaters.
Did it have any kind of theatrical release?
Is
this like a...
This came out in 2016.
Film festival kind of a thing?
I think it may have been, but I don't remember it ever.
So then where did you hear about it? Is this just something that happened across your...
Like, this is just like the source of my life. But one, it was on Netflix. And actually, I don't know if it's still on Netflix, because that's not how I watched it. But I saw it, and like I wasn't sold by the Netflix description at all. But then I was like looking up under Reddit, what are the most disturbing horror films you've ever seen, and it was on there.
Really? Okay.
And I was just like, I've never really heard of this. And then I was like, oh, I remember that cover, and I totally passed on it, but I should not have.
Yeah. Okay, so it's possible. I'm certainly curious about it, and I'm interested to see it. I'm always into like trying new kinds of horror. Like I clearly, like, you mentioned this when we talked in the past, but like I like more or less all types of horror, but there's a very like distinct type that I gravitate towards, which is probably like retro horror, or kind of like B-movie schlocky stuff, and also like really like artsy weird junk. Like if it's like kind of abstract and a little strange, then I probably like it. If it's got a real artsy feel to it, I probably like it. If it's kind of classless and like stupid, I also probably like it. Like,
yeah.
So I think like, that speaks to our taste, but that being said, I do really enjoy like watching as much different horror as I can. And I'm not opposed to, gore stuff, torture, any of that kind of thing. Like, it's not what I am immediately seeking out, but I'd still watch it. But it's just interesting because I had never heard of this before. You brought it up. And you're like coming at it with such a like highly recommending it, I guess. Like,
yeah,
I'm curious. I'm really curious.
I don't, like I said, I feel like it's not like a super twisty plot or anything, but it is just very disturbing, and it's sort of like it's set in the United States, and it's really hard to tell when it is, but I want to say like at first I thought it was like the 50s, but by the time she's like older, like there was a specific, like the movie does a really good job not really selling itself on age, because there's like no cell phones, there's nothing like that, but you can kind of tell from like car, but most of the cars in it still seem like they could be old. And then the thing that like made me think it was like not the 50s was the girl that she has this encounter with is wearing like a jean jacket, and it just seemed like almost like 80s, like modern.
Okay, that's interesting. I always like appreciate when a movie is able to keep stuff like that out of it, like to remain ambiguous in terms of a time period, because I feel like sometimes that can so date a movie in a way that's not good. Yeah. Like, I don't know. I appreciate when I like come out of it and like not only have I not once like wondered to myself, I wonder when that was supposed to take place. Like, it doesn't, like, I didn't notice anything, and I also don't care.
Right.
Like,
yeah. So. I liked that about it. It was ambiguous about when it took place. And also it still feels like almost like old world, like old country.
Yeah. So when I saw like a picture that you posted of it, I think you posted it on Instagram, maybe on your personal Instagram. And the picture that I saw, it was, black and white, but it reminded me of like a a photo that I've seen of like the 1930s, like Great Depression era, like, you know, families in struggle and stuff like that. So I assumed that it was, you know, maybe something around roughly that period, but, or even like, or even European possibly.
They live in a farmhouse, and it's like, they have like cows. So it's definitely like in a rural area. And she, like, in order to find a bar at one point, she says she has to go multiple towns over.
Oh,
she says, like, the girl's like, do you live around here? And she's like, a few towns over.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's like the middle of nowhere kind of a thing. Got it. Okay.
It's intense. It's definitely creepy, and it's shocking.
Ooh, okay.
So I would 100% recommend that. And then the other movie that I watched was Lake Mungo, which is an Australian horror film.
Yes.
That's told in a... it's told in an interesting format. It's about a girl who goes missing on Lake Mungo. And it's about what her family goes through, and how people around them are connected to this disappearance, and then it has a definite supernatural element to it, and also like a predatory, abusive almost element to it.
Yeah. So this is a movie that I recommended to Spectre that I really love. The first time I watched it a couple years ago, it was listed on Reddit's, you know, it was getting close to Halloween, and Pulp Added, who, if you're familiar with any of the other stuff we've put out, is my boyfriend and another person that we've put out content with before. But we were trawling Reddit. We were trying to find lists of like, what's the like scariest movie you've ever seen? What's lists of what's your favorite movie to watch? What's, you know, blah, blah. And I think it was on a list of like, what's an underrated horror movie? And that one came up on the list. And we looked it up. We downloaded it. It sat on our like computer for a while before we watched it. And then when we finally settled in and we like put it on while we were like decompressing from work one day or something. And it was one of those things where like the longer the movie went on, the more we like stopped everything we were doing, and we were just like watching it. It's like a pseudo documentary style.
Yeah.
Kind of. Like it's definitely like a I wouldn't say like Blair Witch type pseudo documentary. It's not like a first person type thing. But it's almost like if you were watching like almost like a thing you might find on a documentary show on like Netflix or something, where there's like interviews set up with people and stuff like that. And they show a lot of camera footage and photos as if like they were real footage or whatever. Not found footage type, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Although there is a little bit of found footage in there too.
Yeah, but that's a plot element, not really like the style of filming.
Yeah, exactly. But it's one that like after we watched it, we both were just like, whoa, like I think like we didn't necessarily know what it was going to be going into it. When we were looking it up, we saw a lot of like mixed reviews, people who really loved it and found it impactful, and people that were like, this is really boring, which I can understand because the plot can be very slow. And I think like the difference for us maybe, or the difference, I can't speak for him, but if I had to guess, for Pulp Added, is that his dad had passed away a few years prior, and his family, especially his mom, is still like dealing with a lot of emotional fallout from that. And I think for him it hit a very personal note for both, you know, things he sees his family still going through, and maybe some emotional elements that he is working through on his own. For me, and I could definitely sense that, even though I don't have that kind of like personal experience going through it. I can like totally imagine watching this with a person who has had any kind of loss, whether it's like a family death or something, and really like finding this like eerie, uncomfortable element to it, which I really liked and appreciated. I mentioned this to you. It reminded me a little bit of Twin Peaks almost, in that there's this very like normal, well-liked girl. She's pretty, she's popular. She dies very suddenly and mysteriously. There are kind of this element of like maybe she was into more stuff than anybody really knew. Did she get into trouble? Did she come across, there's like the whole supernatural element kind of thing. Like, did she know more than she let on, or that anybody could have possibly known? It's left very ambiguous and up in the air. And it's not Twin Peaks like in the way that, the supernatural elements in this are not like, red room, coffee turning into oil, it's not lynchy. Yeah. But to me, it reminded me of that. And I don't know if that's because I'm a big Twin Peaks fan and I'm like seeing it in places it doesn't exist. But that was certainly something that I thought of. And we've rewatched that movie several times since. And I would recommend it for people that like kind of a slow burn kind of a movie and maybe don't mind not having every little question filled out for you at the end of it. But that being said, also, I can totally see why people would not like this movie. And I know you didn't super like it.
I didn't.
And I'd be interested. Like, let's talk about that then.
I did not super like it. The reason why is it took a really long time to get to a point where I felt like anything was gripping me. I guess like there is like some twisty plot elements, and when it got to them, at first I was like, oh shit, and then I was like excited about that, and then like it felt like that plot element was just like, oh well, there's nothing we could really do about it, so and then it just it kind of went back to the original thread, and I was just like, I'm a little bit bored by this, and I feel like I will totally admit that I am a desensitized person, and I am a thrill seeker when it comes to horror films and horror in general, and I want to be shocked. I don't want to say scared because I almost never am, but I want to be thrilled, and I did not get that in this movie. That being said, I kind of wish I had come at it from like a different point of view, because I could see it being like almost just a story of loss and sadness with some like horror elements added in. And if I had come at it from that, instead of it being on a list of the most disturbing horror films, I would have probably been more impressed with it. Because I don't, like, there are a lot of movies, like, even horror movies that I think are, like, kind of tame that I really enjoy. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be all insanity. But I guess just, like, how I found out about the movie, and I guess, like, maybe the company in which I watched the movie, like, the types of other things I was watching at the same time. It wasn't a good fit. I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I'm just saying, like, I wish I had not seen it as necessarily a horror film.
I can see that. I can definitely see that, because I think, like, it could be considered similar in themes to The Babadook, which people also, like, bring up a lot as, like, this is a horror movie, but it's also about loss and about grief and about coping. And I think this movie is also a lot about that, but I think you're right. I think this is a movie that is about those things, but very like cloaked in a lot of horror movie imagery and ideas. And I think The Babadook is certainly more of a traditional horror movie with like underpinnings of that. Like, I don't know. I think
it's funny that you say that, because I was watching that with Nova, who also has created other Ominous Glitch content with us, and he also compared it to The Babadook. But he and I are, like, not fans of The Babadook either. So he was like, I can kind of see why they would like this movie, because it's similar to this other movie that we also don't like but I like this better than I like The Babadook. I'll say that.
Oh, really?
I like that better.
Can I ask you why? If you even know why, other than just like, I like this, I don't like that. I feel like that's a weird question to ask, but
I found the plot more compelling.
Okay.
And the ending is more satisfying.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I think like this movie came out, Lake Mungo came out in like 2008, 2009?
2008.
2000, something like that. So it definitely is got some years on it, but I wouldn't say it feels aged.
It feels Australian, and that kind of...
It sure does.
Sometimes that always feels aged. Like, you can watch, like, an Australian movie from, like, this year, and you might think it looks aged.
I can totally see that. That's true. But there's... Yeah. I think the only thing that ages that one is, I think... and this is not a spoiler, but, like, a plot element, is that there's a cell phone that becomes involved towards the end of the movie, and that is a flip phone.
Like, early to mid 2000s. It wasn't a Nokia though.
It might. Like, oh shit, you're right.
Like, yeah,
like candy bar phone.
Yeah.
It's an older phone for sure. But maybe that's another one of those things. Like maybe I just assume like the rest of their media content. Maybe like Australia is just like
I feel
comfortable with their old phones.
I feel like we were done with the Nokia phone like way before 2008.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know how long they spent filming this movie.
That's true. I don't know either. That's something I should look up at some point.
Or like when exactly the movie is supposed to take place, because maybe it was supposed to take place earlier.
I don't remember, but I feel like in some of the parts of the film that show like family home footage and stuff like that, it might have a date on the recording, but maybe, I don't remember.
Or that also like the cameras they use to film some of the strange events around the home, they're really old cameras. Like we had better cameras in 2008, even for home. Like we had like the little digital film cameras by then.
That's a good point.
Maybe this movie takes place in like the early 2000s. Like maybe it's like possibly 2001 or something. I don't know. We don't know about the movie.
There's a lot about that movie that you can walk away not knowing.
Yeah. Yeah, and when it took place is like really not that big of a deal.
It's like the least important part of the movie. I guess I should say, like, just for reference, if you haven't picked up on it already, Lake Mungo is sort of a haunting movie, I guess.
Yeah, there's definitely supernatural.
So there are like elements of haunting stuff because I guess like maybe I don't know if it even matters, but I feel like one of the reasons that we were so into it is because it feels a lot like watching some of those like YouTube channels and YouTube videos where, you know, someone shows you a video of a ghost and they're like, did you see it? Let's go back and play it again.
And then like circle it in red.
The red.
And then they zoom arrows in on it.
Yeah, except it doesn't do that so much in this movie, but it felt a lot like that. Like you felt like you were watching someone's home videos that you like the same way that you would watch someone's like personal videos or, you know, whatever photos on YouTube. So I think like that added to it for me. Mm-hmm. And it linted I knew it was obviously a movie, but it linted a layer of authenticity for me and let me like suspend my disbelief for a second. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well,
so those are those two movies.
those are some movies we saw.
Yes.
We're not like, I don't want this to like immediately make everybody think this is a horror movie podcast because it's not.
No.
That was just my contribution. Was I watched some scary movies. That's what I did. That's what's relevant to me right now. Right.
If anybody out here listening to this has seen those movies or wants to watch those movies, let us know what you think. You can always reach out to us on Twitter. You can, if you're watching this on the video, you can comment on the video. We certainly would love to hear from anybody else out there.
Definitely.
So one of my things that I wanted to talk about is something that I discovered pretty recently, just a couple days ago. There's a YouTube channel, a like short little YouTube miniseries. I'm going to probably mispronounce it because it is in Polish, but it's KRAINAGRZYBOWTV. All one word is the name of the YouTube channel. I will spell that for you in case you are interested in looking it up, but it's KRAINAGRZYBOW KRAINAGRZYBOW TV. So I found this watching a Nightmare Expo, I think, video. So yeah, it was one of those things where like he was doing his like explained on it, and that's the thing, like it's explained. This is a little mini web series that like is a production from start to finish. Like there's no like, where did this come from? Like, who uploaded this? Like, what, like it's a mystery. But what it is like, for something that is a complete production, is pretty unsettling and creepy. And I really enjoyed it. So the series it came out in like 2013, but I legit did not hear of this at all until a few days ago, which kind of surprises me for how much time I spend on the internet and on like weird places.
Yeah, when you brought it up to me, I had never heard of it. And I even watch a lot of Nightmare Expo, and I somehow missed this video.
Right, like I messaged it to her, and I was like, "Have you heard of this?" Because I didn't want it to be like, "Oh yeah, I've heard of that. I've seen other people talk about that. It's dumb. Let's not talk about it." But like, you hadn't heard of it either, which is very surprising. But my only guess is that because this was originally put out by a creator that is Polish or from somewhere in the like, I guess, Eastern European area, there's just like a language barrier or something, and that's like just discouraged people from getting into it too much. Nightmare Expo, and his video is probably around 20 minutes long, but he gives like a rundown of each of the 6 episodes, and has a lot of stuff that's translated, and then he kind of at the end presents theories about what people think this series means and what it's about. But I've checked it out since then, and also someone has gone in and closed captioned the original videos on the channel, so you can go in and turn the closed captions on and watch them. But I think Nightmare Expos is a good place to start if you're interested in getting into this, because there's an episode 3 that has been taken down off the channel, the main channel. And so I'm sure it's around somewhere, but it's been taken down off the main channel, but Nightmare Expo includes it in his video. But so the whole thing, KRAINAGRZYBOWTV, KRAINAGRZYBOW translates to Mushroom Land, I believe. And so this would be Mushroom Land TV, and each episode is about 6 to 8 minutes long, and it's like a segment from a TV show that would be called something that translates to Smile Guide. So it looks like an educational, like, public broadcast TV show that would be made in like the 80s, but also like made in the 80s in like Eastern Europe. So it looks like it could be from like the early 80s to like late 70s, and sometimes. But it's sort of like a children's programming kind of thing. It uses a lot of like 80s graphics, and it uses a lot of like mixed media. Sometimes things like are animated, or sometimes things look like stop motion. There's just like a lot of interesting visual textures going on, if that makes any sense. The show is hosted by this little girl named Agatha, and I guess like Agatha's age is weird to me, because she's, I think, clearly supposed to be a little kid, and she looks like a little kid, but at the same time, like, if you told me it was someone my age, like someone in their like mid to late 20s, I would believe it. And it's really ambiguous and hard to tell, because the character of Agatha has like cut out paper eyes on her real eyes all the time. It's really strange looking, and it like has a very strange effect. When I was watching it the first time, Pulp Added was sitting next to me, and he was like, "Are those digitally added in?" And they kind of did at times look like they were digitally added in, because they seemed to be like sitting on her face in a way that was like kind of incongruous with like her head movements or something. But I did do some research later, and it does seem like they are taped down or glued down or something for every episode. And I did find the creator of this did a Reddit AMA at one point, I think a year ago, and for the AMA he like had the paper eyes, so I guess they were real and they were there. But Agatha is this, your little girl host. She has like a couple other characters that appear in the series like throughout. One is this like animated squirrel named Maggie. That's her like friend and companion, and they're like kind of not very nice to each other sometimes. Mm-hmm. But Agatha and Maggie are like friends, I guess. There's some other characters. One is called like the Jeansman, who is like an adult male that is like dressed head to toe in denim. He's got like a hat kind of thing. It almost looks like a skull cap or like do-rag kind of hat that like looks like the pants part, like the butt part of a pair of jeans, but like on his head and like sits really, really low, almost covering his eyes. And there's like a girl character, whatever. I mean, you got to keep the sun out of your eyes, and if that's how you choose to do it. And then there's like a character called Caroline, and she's got like a really big paper mouth. And probably like besides Agatha and Maggie, like the number one most recurring character is this like silhouetted figure that is supposed to be Agatha's mom. And the segments with Agatha's mom are kind of placed here and there throughout all the other episodes, and they're done almost like when you watch the news and somebody's being interviewed and they like don't want their identity revealed, so they're like a backlit silhouette, and their voice is changed. So that's what Agatha's mom is.
Is her voice like deeper or robotic, or
it's made to be really deep?
Okay, that's creepy.
Yeah, it's really upsetting. And she does this thing. I'm going to describe it for you guys listening and not watching. She does this thing where she just tilts her head back and forth the whole time. It's really strange to watch.
Oh, yeah.
And just like something about it is just like really weird. But as the mom is talking about stuff that is more or less unrelated to whatever Agatha is doing in the show. She seems to be like recounting almost like you would, like I said, on a news program or something where someone's telling their story. And if you kind of string it along from episode to episode, it seems like the story she's telling is the story about Agatha disappearing in some way. It's kind of unclear if she's gone missing or if she's run away or if she's been kidnapped, like taken. But, the mom talks about receiving strange phone calls and getting weird letters, and that someone says to her, like, says that they're Agatha and that they're fine. And she says, do they think I wouldn't know my own child? So there's kind of this idea that Agatha, the Agatha that we're seeing is somewhat disconnected in some way from her mom. Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of things that are sort of recurring themes throughout all the episodes. And these have led to a lot of like the speculation that people have gotten into about what this show is about. So like, before I get into that too much, I'll like round off by saying that this show has like really excellent video and audio production because it really effectively just feels off. Everything feels off and weird. But at the same time, it can almost like lull you into that world. Mm-hmm. Nothing in this is like overtly scary, I would say, unless like weird existential horror like gets to you, because I feel like there's a level of like at some points like there's so little like idea of what's going on that I feel like it could be disorienting maybe. Mm-hmm. And there's, like I said, there's a lot of like weird video and audio stimulus that might be like weird or like upsetting for someone who's not in the right state of mind.
Didn't you also, when we talked about this before, during our first trial of this podcast, did you say there were also some like kind of upsetting jump scares?
Yeah, there are actually. There's at least one that I can think of off the top of my head. I think it's in the second episode, where that I think that name of that episode is like How to Paper or something like that. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the episodes have titles like that, like How to This and How to that. I think like the first one is How to Apple, and I think the third one is something to do with like how to brush your hair, or something like that. Or maybe that's the fourth one. But anyway, it's presented like this is an instructional thing, and in the How to Paper one, I think like she's showing you will need this and this and this and this, and like I think at one point it just like her face just like really suddenly like gets changed to this like kind of like monstery version of her face. I don't know.
Is there also like a loud noise associated?
Yeah, there's a lot of it associated. Warning. There's not a lot of jump scares in this series, but there's like a few, and I found them to be effective. I at this point I feel like I can tell when a jump scare is coming a mile away, and like, you know, sometimes I'm like into that, and I'll like, I'll let the jump scare like get me because I enjoy the like endorphins or whatever my body releases at that particular moment. But usually I know it's coming, and I think in this one I'd gotten so like weirdly lulled into this like bizarre world and everything in front of me that like I didn't see it coming. So I found that really effective, and I thought it was cool. I don't know. I like to be taken off guard sometimes. But so like a lot of people think that this show is like straight up just about like a bad drug trip.
Yeah.
Because it's, you know, it's called like Mushroomland TV, and there's a lot of stuff about like mushrooms. And that like it seems too easy. And like, yeah, I'll grant that like a lot of the stuff that you see in the show could be like representing like something trippy, like, you know, like some of the stuff is weird looking and kind of weird, but like I think that's too simple.
Yeah,
I don't know. There seems like there's so much intention behind the show.
There's a lot of like, that's a lazy interpretation, I feel like, of a lot of stuff. If it's weird or somehow not easily explained, it's really easy to say like, oh, it's drugs. It's like people who explain like the entirety of Alice in Wonderland, like the whole thing, all of it, 100% it was drugs. Like, if you take drugs, you will immediately write Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's how you do it, right?
I mean, I've done it.
No, okay.
I wrote it.
Do you need someone to edit? You need someone to edit your manuscript?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, I don't know. I'm not going to say that like there weren't some visual elements that might have been inspired by like trippy drug imagery, but I don't think that's the point of the show. There's another theory that I think is pretty interesting that has to do with the fact that like, given the like time frame that this is supposed to take place in, and like the fact that this was presented by like a country like in like this was presented by Poland or like Poland adjacent, that this is like reflecting a lot of like Cold War era fears about nuclear fallout and like, you know, nuclear war. Again, the mushrooms coming into play as being representative of like mushroom clouds and atomic bombs. There's a like diagram of an apple that you see in the first episode that someone has like pointed out is like similar to like the atomic structure that you would see when you're like building a nuclear bomb. Stuff like that. And I think that seems just as valid, you know, like I can see that too. There's at one point, there's a town that's like, the mom is talking. It's one of the interviews with the mom. And she's saying like, you know, we thought we had a lead in this town, which started with a G. I don't remember what it's called, and I probably couldn't say it if I could. But she's like, we thought we had a lead in this town because someone said they saw her there. But it turns out that this city, like, only exists on a map, which, like, implies that, like, maybe this is a city that's been, like, wiped out, or I don't know. That could be... That could be interpreted a couple different ways, I guess. So I think that's like an interesting adaptation. It reminds me a lot of how like people have the like nuclear war theory of Adventure Time, you know, the like final theory, and the one that was like the one that I immediately thought of is that this was all maybe like a metaphor for child abuse, particularly like sexual abuse, maybe. Which there's some of the other like themes that you see more than once. There's a lot of talk about cows and stuff that seems to like it's either straight up a chart or graph of, or like visually resembles like female reproductive systems. And there's something in the first episode, How to Apple, where she starts, like, it seems like the How to Apple is like how to core an apple. Mm-hmm. And so she's like digging into this apple, and she keeps going and she keeps going and she keeps going. And she's kind of like pushing into this like apple in a way that seems very like thrusting, I guess. Like, I don't know. It's sort of violent. It's
violent sexual movement, perhaps.
I mean, I don't want to be that person who sees like sexual stuff everywhere, but like that's what it came across to me.
I'll be that person.
You can be that guy? Okay. Yeah. Well, there's also like I think like the second episode, which is the one that has the most of the cow stuff, to me, almost I think like there's one of the times she does it, she calls her mom a cow. Or like it seems like her mom is what she's referring to. And it made me wonder if like she's been called a cow, or she's like heard someone call her mother a cow. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that like I think you could loosely tie together a lot of different ways. And I kind of have my own personal ideas that like I said, I think the like abuse, like particularly like sexual abuse thing makes the most sense to me, but I'm not going to like string out all of my ideas here because I think it's really there's so much interesting stuff to kind of play around with that I think like there are even more theories out there than just the, you know, abuse theory or the drugs theory or the nuclear war theory. Like, I think you could come up with like other further things, and I would be really interested to see people's like interpretations and take on that too. Like, I don't want to impose my own opinions too much on anybody, because I think it's really series is so creative and it's so visually interesting and just like weird and unsettling, and I like just cannot believe that this is the first time I had heard of it because it's so right up my alley. Like I was saying earlier about how
it does seem like something like I mean I'm interested in it. I'm gonna watch it now, but it also does seem like something that would appeal to you and your style. And not to like interrupt you, but here's a thought. We can, on the Ominous Glitch Twitter, for every topic, I guess, that we bring up, like every major topic, we can just be like, here's a thread to discuss this.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in coming and discussing this, if you've seen it or you're about to see it and you want to talk to us about it, we'll just be like, here's a thread on KRAINAGRZYBOW, and then maybe we could also put the link there. So that you can go watch it. Or
find it easily.
At least to, like, Nightmare Expo, his coverage of it.
Yeah, I think, you know, and if you're new to, like, internet mysteries or stuff, like, if you're finding this podcast and you don't spend a lot of time on YouTube or online and you don't, like, dig into this stuff the way that we do, I would definitely suggest starting with the Nightmare Expo explanation video, because I feel like, particularly because this is not English, there's, you know, kind of a language barrier. This could be intimidating for people, maybe. But he handles it well. Like I said, there are closed captions now on the videos, so if that's something that you feel like jumping right into, I think, like, honestly, like, having it not being in English makes it, like, weirdly even creepier. Yeah, I don't know.
It's separated one more degree, because it's not your language, and also there's a whole, you know, way of speaking and attitude that comes with that culture and language that's foreign to us, literally foreign to us.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's exactly what it is. So I don't know, I really liked it. It's weird, it's artsy, briefly worth mentioning, I guess, in terms of how, like, this is, like I said, like, clearly like a production that someone put on from start to finish. They have uploaded on their YouTube individual tracks that they use in the show, that you can just listen to the audio, just like the music for it.
To that on your
you can
to work.
Jam out to your like weird spooky 80s sounding music, and they also have like a link to a shop. So like, I personally think that the character Maggie the squirrel is like kind of grotesque and don't like it that much. Like, but you can buy a T-shirt with Maggie on it. Yeah, You can get your like Maggie cell phone covers and your Maggie the Squirrel t-shirts. There is actually a t-shirt that I would wear. It's like a black, and it has the like cutout eyes that Agatha wears on there. And then like, but then like they're also here and they look like teardrops coming down the front of the shirt.
Oh, cool.
I thought it was kind of neat. That was yes. So check it out. That's KRAINAGRZYBOWTV. Again, we'll probably have the link put up somewhere so you can find it. It's not like super terrifying. It's just like the unsettling, like weird, creepy. So
that's awesome. I'm into it. I'm gonna watch it and then I'll bring it up next podcast.
Yes, I want to hear what you think.
I guess like maybe this is how we're gonna like sort of format it. I will read one of my like creepy Reddit stories that I find while searching through Reddit, and then also I have an old book. It's like old, but it's like from the 90s of superstitions.
That's ancient.
It's ancient as I am.
Yeah.
It's a book on superstitions, and then I was just gonna like read one every time, and then we could like discuss it.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so let's see. Which Reddit story? I think that this was part of a really creepy thread, so if it's what I'm thinking of.
Ooh, I'm already on pins and needles.
Oh, actually, this one is awesome. Okay.
Oh, yes. I'm ready.
Okay, so this was posted 2 years ago by a Reddit user named Bigsie, Bigsie. And the thread was a really good one. I like was so horrified by so much of the stuff that was on there. But
good.
It's as a kid, what was the creepiest thing you ever noticed about somebody else's family?
Oh God. Okay.
And so like I think I told you, sorry, she's just gonna make my dog never stops barking, so we're lucky we've gotten this much quiet time. There was a lot of like child abuse stuff, so I chose not to like do any of that because I don't really want to talk about like sexual child molestation on like we might get there sometime, but not today.
Yeah.
And I did send you some of those.
Oh, I'll have to look.
No, we talked about it. I don't know if you remember. It was like right before you started telling me that you wanted to like show your mom Line Messenger, and you were like, please like fill the conversation with normal things because I'm screenshotting this.
Now I remember.
Okay, so I visited a neighbor kid's house to play one afternoon, and I noticed that all of the family portraits had a kid blacked out with Sharpie. I asked him who colored the pictures, and he said his mom did, but wouldn't elaborate. A few years ago, I remembered the experience and asked my mother if he had a brother or sister, and she said he'd been an only child since we'd moved there. I thought maybe he had a sibling that died or something, but when I think about it, the picture was recent enough that my mother wouldn't have known him as an only child. Who was the kid, and why did his or her neighbors know? Why didn't his or her neighbors know him, and why did the family cross him out? It's an unsolved mystery.
That is a weird one.
Yeah, it's so weird.
So it was recent enough that,
like the kid should
theoretically, yeah,
based on the age of the other kid.
Well, it makes me wonder, what kind of pictures were these, though? I wonder if they were the, like...
family portraits.
Yeah, so does that mean, like, okay, let's presume there was, like, a kid they kept in the basement or something. Does that mean they take the kid out to, like, JCPenney to get his, like, family Owen Mills family portrait taken? Like...
I don't know, but maybe
maybe
it was like a really recent situation though. Like maybe I don't know. Maybe it's just not real, like we discussed earlier. Okay, I'm recording again. Okay, I just have to say, unfortunately, we're having technical difficulties, which is like a huge reason why we haven't been able to get this out before now. So we're gonna quickly get through our superstition. And then peace out, and then I will make sure my computer gets fixed before next time. So, why does it always open to that same page? Okay, have you ever heard of a groaning cake? A groaning, like Groaning cake.
No, I've never heard of that.
It's a special cake, or sometimes it's a cheese. It is made to celebrate the birth of a child and to ensure the good luck of a new arrival. Rarely seen in modern times, the groaning cake, so called in reference to the noise a mother makes in labor, should be cut by the father or else the attending doctor, who must take care not to cut himself, as this is an omen that the baby will die before it is a year old. Refusing a piece will bring the infant bad luck and rob it of charm. A groaning cheese may be cut from the middle of the hole until the hole is large enough the baby can be passed through it. So you cut the middle of the cheese so the baby can pass through it.
I'm not putting my baby in any cheese.
Usually done on the day of christening. Unmarried girls may choose to keep their slice of cake or cheese and slip it under their pillow in the expectation of seeing their future lover in their dreams.
That is so ridiculous. And also, like,
super gross.
I cannot. Yeah, what? Like, how long are you supposed to hold on to this cheese?
I don't know. Maybe you just do it that one night just to see your lover.
Maybe, but like, again, this is like, you're probably like, what, 13, 14, 15, 16 when you're doing this? So you've had this piece of cake or cheese. We're really focusing in on the cheese here, but like,
I just think
you've had this piece of food forever?
No, I think just the night that you get the cheese or the cake, you put it under your pillow. So like, you can dream about your future person, and then then you're done with it. And you can either
you use it when you're a baby.
Cheese. No, it's when somebody else has a baby.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, like if you are lucky enough to get a piece of a baby's groaning cake or cheese.
Oh, okay, that makes slightly more sense.
Yeah.
Groaning cake though, just like is not an appetizing sounding like thing at all.
And that's like, super weird. I'm kind of glad I read that one. I don't think anyone else has covered that.
Jesus, no, never.
You heard it here.
You heard it here first.
Well,
hashtag groaning cake.
Yeah, hashtag groaning cake. Thanks for joining us, you guys. Sorry that we had to kind of rush the ending here, but my computer keeps shutting down. I'll get it fixed. Thank you so much. If you like this, let us know. If you like it a lot and we notice that you're listening a lot, we will make it weekly. But for now, it will be every other Monday, starting from the Monday that I post this.
Yes. And hopefully we'll hear back from you guys. Like we mentioned, possible Twitter threads for subject matter, Instagram. Mm-hmm. Comment on this video if you're watching us on YouTube.
Okay. Thank you for joining us, you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.